Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to enter round 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Now, this has been the Avalanche's weakness in the past. Of course, last year losing to Vegas in round 2 in 6 games. The year before that, losing to the Stars in game 7. The year before that, losing to the Sharks in game 7. And this is the time for the team to step up. We got the star power. We have got the depth. It is time to move forward. Now, hockey is tied for my favorite sport with football. I don't talk about it a lot on the YouTube channel because, I want to. I genuinely do. I genuinely want to talk about it. If you come and talk to any of my friends in real life, you'll know that I won't shut up about hockey, okay? Hockey is tied for my favorite sport, and it is time to do the series preview with the Avalanche going on to round 2 to face St. Louis. I'm rocking our third alternate jerseys, of course, with the mountain and the sea. This is a Nathan MacKinnon jersey. I'm very, very excited. It's set to be, the first game is set to be on Tuesday, the 17th, I believe. Yes, Tuesday the 17th against the Blues. That's expected to be game 1, but we'll see. Let's go ahead. Let's jump into this series preview. Avalanche versus the Blues. Round number 2 matchup. As always, I want to remind you that Jesus is King. I pray that you give your life to Him. He's got a plan and a purpose for you. And I just truly hope that you give your life to Jesus. Believe with your whole heart that He died on the cross for your sins. And if you truly believe that, believe with your whole heart that He died on the cross for your sins, then you'll go to heaven. It's that simple. It's that easy. It's my message I like to share before every video because I feel it's important as a Christian. Now, whether you choose to accept it and believe it, that's up to you. But I truly do hope you accept it and believe it because I want to see as many people get to heaven as possible. And with that being said, let's jump in to the preview. Alrighty, so the goaltender matchup, I do have Darcy Kuemper being the starter. I do think he is going to be the game 1 starter. Of course, he had that injury in game 3 where he got poked in the eye, left in the first period, and then Pavel Francouz took over for the remaining 2 periods. And then, of course, Pavel Francouz started game number 4. Now, so far, these stats are going to be used for the playoffs only, but Darcy Kuemper has played and started 3 games. He only has 2 wins because, obviously, he had to come out of Game 3, so Francouz got the win for Game 3. But he has no losses. He faced 61 shots, and he allowed 4 goals. He has a 163 goals against average, which is really, really good in the playoffs, and a 934 save percentage. And, yeah, Darcy Kuemper, don't get me wrong, I love Pavel Francouz, but I think Darcy Kuemper, if we want to make a run at the Stanley Cup playoffs, Kuemper has to be healthy and Kuemper has to be our goaltender. But I love Francouz. Kuemper has just been one of my favorite players since he was with Arizona. He was traded to the Avalanche for a first-round pick, a conditional third-round pick, and defenseman Connor Timmins. Before that, he was with the Arizona Coyotes. Before that, he was with the LA Kings for not even a full season. And before that, he was with the Minnesota Wild. But Kuemper has been one of my favorite players for a while now. And yeah, I'm happy he's the Avalanche goaltender, and I'm assuming he's going to be good to go from everything I'm hearing from for Game 1 behind Jared Bednar. For the Blues, it's going to be Jordan Binnington. He started 3 games out of their 6, so he started half of their games, getting 3 wins, no losses. He's faced 88 shots. He allowed 5 goals, a 167 goals against average, and a 943 save percentage with the Blues. Binnington he's a solid goaltender. I just the way he acts, I don't really like him. Just acts like a child on the ice. So to me, Binnington is not my favorite player, but he's a solid goaltender for the Blues, and he's going to be a tough matchup for the Avalanche to face. But with our star power, with our scoring, with our defense being able to score, I do feel confident in being able to score against Binnington. We'll see, though. We'll see. Of course, we didn't get to face UC Saros from the Nashville Predators, who is up for the Vezina Trophy as the best goaltender, as he was hurt. We lit up Dave Riddick, and then, of course, Connor Ingram came in, and he was solid for the Predators. But the Blues have I would say their top goalie. Of course, they use Ville Husso a lot, but I'd say Binnington is still their top goaltender. The points leader for the Avalanche is the young prodigy. All hail Cale Makar. He's been absolutely dominant in these playoffs. In 4 games, he's recorded 3 goals, 7 assists for 10 points. Of course, getting the sweep and still having 10 points is absolutely insane. He's a 4 on the plus minus, and he's only taken 2 penalties with 4 penalty minutes. Cale Makar is one of, if not the best defenseman in the game. And, of course, I'm going to be biased, so I think he should win the Norris Trophy. He's absolutely unbelievable and outstanding. Cale Makar is unreal. Luckily, growing up in Colorado, being born and raised there, I've gone to many Avalanche games. My dad owns season tickets, so I go with him. And Cale Makar is just so fun to watch in person. Moving on to the Blues leader, it's going to be David Perron. For them, he scored in their 6 games played in the playoffs. He scored 5 goals with 4 assists for a total of 9 points. He's a 0 on the plus minus, which, plus minus is one of those stats where it's like, it doesn't really tell the whole story of how their season and in the playoffs it's going. And then, of course, he's also taken 2 penalties with 4 penalty minutes for the St. Louis Blues. He wasn't here when we swept the Blues in last year's series. He was injured, and now they get him back. So that's going to be a big boost for that Blues team being able to score. But, I'm feeling confident. I'm feeling confident in our defense and obviously goaltender Darcy Kuemper. Our goal leader, however, is Nathan MacKinnon. He's absolutely unreal in the playoffs. He's a different animal. In 4 games played, he has 5 goals, 1 assist for 6 points. He's a 3 on the plus minus and has only taken 1 penalty with 2 penalty minutes. MacKinnon, I expect him to go off. He knows that we've been eliminated in the second round for 3 consecutive years. He's not going to have it look that way again, or he's not going to have that happen under his watch again. So I'm expecting a takeover from Nathan MacKinnon and just him to go absolutely beast mode. So MacKinnon is our top leading points or goal scorer, and then the goal scorer leader for the Blues is also David Perron. So he leads them in points and goals. He is right now, I would say he's their first option for scoring. So we need to shut him down and then work from there if I was Jared Bednar. But, of course, I trust Bednar. He's a really good head coach for the Avalanche. So here are the line projections. I am going based on their last game in the playoffs. So, of course, changes could happen but for each side. But this is what I have right now. And, of course, there are changes to come. Of course, there's a lot of injuries still that could players could heal and come back on the ice before. But as of right now, here's what the first line for the Avalanche is looking like. On left wing, we got Valeri Nichushkin. Nichushkin absolutely needs a contract extension after this year. He has been insane this year. He's able to drive to the front of the net, deflect pucks, be that big body, be that big screen in front of the net. Of course, Nathan MacKinnon at center, and Mikko Rantanen on the right wing. Mikko Rantanen is unbelievable. Just that one-timer, you got to look out for that on the left side, especially on the power play. It's kind of a 1-2 punch, especially with Makar and Toews in the backfield. And then Gabe Landeskog I have on the second line, and he's been playing there for this series. Obviously, he's coming back from the surgery, coming back from that injury. So, to me, I still like him as the second-line center. He could bump up back up to the first line, and, I would totally understand if that happens. But for right now, I have Landeskog on the second line with Nazem Kadri, who is having a career year. He has absolutely gone off this year. I think we should re-sign him. I know he's going to be asking for a lot of money, and there's a debate among Avs fans if we re-sign him. But to me, you gotta re-sign him. You gotta re-sign him. We'll talk more about the re-signings this offseason because, I do have a little bit. I have the cogs turning of what I want the Avalanche to do this offseason. However, we got to focus on the playoffs right now. We need to focus on winning that Stanley Cup. We're built for this. That's what the team's built for, so we need to focus on it. And, of course, we have trade deadline acquisition, Torey who is a great, solid middle six, and he can play in the bottom six if you need him to, but I like him as a middle six forward. He's really, really been solid since being acquired from Montreal. Of course, having to give up our top defensive prospect, Justin Barrett. I didn't say top prospect because I do think Oscar Olsson is our top prospect. I'm going to try to start slowing down so I'm not talking so fast. But, yeah, I love Lehkonen. I think that he has been a fantastic addition to this team and a great pickup by Joe Sakic. On the third line, I have Andrei Burakovsky, someone who I think needs to get his groove back, because when he's in his groove, he's how do I describe this? He has one of the best wrist shots that I have ever seen. It is a fast release, and it is very accurate, and it's got the power. Obviously, we saw it ripping the net in game number 4. So Burakovsky, he's got one of the best shots I've seen. Just needs to get in the zone and be that player that I know he can be. That he's there and then he's disappeared. So he has these fluctuations, and we need him to be up here in this series. At center, we got JT Kuemper, so someone who's a solid depth scorer, someone who can play in the middle 6. He can bump down to the 4th line and play in the bottom 6 if you need him to. But JT Kuemper is a solid depth scorer. And then obviously Nicholas Aube-Kubel, who we picked up off of waivers, is a very solid pickup as well that I like on the 3rd line, but could play on the 4th line as well. On the 4th line, we have Darren Helm, the veteran, who obviously won a Stanley Cup his rookie year in 2008 with the Detroit Red Wings. He's a fantastic skater, and he's still got a lot of speed. Picking it, we also have Nico Sturm at center, who we picked up from the Tyson Jost trade, who, Sturm is growing on me. At first, I wasn't sure about that move, but after watching him play, I like him, and I like his fit to this Avalanche team. I think he brings a lot of value that a lot of Avalanche fans don't really see. He brings a lot of value in screening the goaltender. He's also very solid on the penalty kill, and so Sturm has a lot of value on this team. And then Logan O'Connor as well, undrafted free agent out of the University of Denver. He's a great penalty killer. He can provide offensively, so someone who I really like on the 4th line. However, if there was one player I'd take that I might suspect being taken out of this lineup, it probably would be Logan O'Connor, just to have Andrew Cogliano placed in there for the more physicality role, honestly. Just being that bigger body. It's playoff hockey's physical, so you need those physical bodies. Maybe a Curtis McDermott, but I wouldn't mind if Logan O'Connor's there. But Avs fans, watch out for, if Andrew Cogliano gets healthy, for him to be reinserted in that spot. The defensive pairing, obviously the first one's Devon Toews, Cale Makar. I'm a bias. I'm gonna say the best defensive tandem, the best defensive pairing in the league. Toews a left-handed shot, Makar right-handed shot. Both gifted offensively. Both have tremendous value on the offensive end of the ice, but also helping out on the defensive end of the ice. Yeah, this is the best defensive pairing in the NHL. Of course, on the second pairing, you have Sam Girard and Josh Manson. Manson, I like a bigger body, going to be physical, going to go make some hits. Sam Girard, an undersized defenseman, and he can be a very solid offensive defenseman. However, he just hasn't been great this season. He's honestly really struggled. He's turned the puck over. He's made bad reads. He just hasn't been that offensive this year. His defense just hasn't been there. So Sam Girard, I'm hoping, can pick it up this series. I think he's in a down year. I think he's going to pick it back up potentially next season. I think he's getting a lot of hate right now, but he hasn't been great. But I think he can improve and be that player we know he is. And then on the third pairing, we have Bowen Byram and Erik Johnson. I truly believe that Bowen Byram, if he was healthy and he played a full season, he would have he would have been in the running for Rookie of the Year. Not necessarily saying he would win it, but I think he would be in the running. Of course, he had those lingering concussion issues from taking that hit last season from Keegan Colasar, and so he's just been dealing with that all season. But when he's on the ice, he's a very solid offensive defenseman. Yeah, I think I'm excited to see what he can do in the playoffs. He's already having a big impact. He's not afraid to stand down. He's going to challenge you. If you want to fight him, he'll fight, He's just not going to give up because he's young. And then Erik Johnson is on the ice to protect him. Obviously, the Condor, the big physical defenseman. He can't contribute offensively, but he's mostly going to be there to help back on the back check and on the defensive end. The goaltenders, like I said, Darcy Kuemper, I plan to be the starter. And then Pavel Francouz as the backup if anything happens, which hopefully it doesn't. I do have our top goaltending prospect, Justus Anunen, as the emergency goaltender. Of course, he's with the Colorado Eagles, so he'll have to get called up. But, I have him as the emergency one. And then, just in case, Hunter Miska will be our fourth goaltender there. Moving on to the Blues. The Blues have a very solid team. Of course, center is former Avalanche Ryan O'Reilly. On his left, he's got Braden Schenn, and on his right, he's got their top point and goal scorer, David Perron. On the second line, you got Pavel Buchnevich, who you acquired from the New York Rangers. You have Robert Thomas and Vladimir Tarasenko, who is still an effective player, and he's been effective in these playoffs. However, he really hasn't he hasn't been the same player that we saw in 2019 when he won the Cup and the years before. You know, he's sort of a shell of himself, but I don't want Avalanche fans to say, oh yeah, no, Tarasenko, he's nothing. He's still a solid player, so we can't just roll over him like he's nothing, because he will still beat you if you let him. So you got to still watch him. On the third line, we have former Avalanche Brandon Saad on the left wing, Ivan Barbashev as the center, and an underrated player, as much as I hate to say it because I hate the Blues, in Jordan Kyrou. Then on the fourth line, you have Tyler Bozak as the center, and then two guys who, you know, I've heard of them, but don't know much about them, so I'm just not gonna spend a lot of time on it too much, just in case you're wondering. There you go. Anyway, let's move on to their defensive pairings, and that is going to be Nick Leddy and Colton Parayko as their top two defensive pairing, which, you know, is a solid defensive pairing. However, they are missing Torey Krug, and we'll talk about Krug in a little bit, but I don't know when he'll be back, but when he does, he'll be a boost to that Blues defensive pairing. Then you have Kalle Rosen and Justin Falk. Kalle Rosen was actually, it's a funny story, he was traded. Kalle Rosen and Nazem Kadri were traded to the Avalanche from the Toronto Maple Leafs in exchange for one of my favorite players, Tyson Barrie and Alexander Kerfoot. They went over there. And then at the trade deadline, we traded Kalle Rosen back to the Maple Leafs in exchange for Michael Hutchinson, who eventually started Game 7 against Dallas 2 years ago in the playoffs, in that Game 7. And then their third line, or their third pairing defensemen, are Nico Mikkola and Robert Bertuzzo on the back end. Their goaltenders are Jordan Binnington, obviously, and Ville Husso as the backup. Now, here's some notable players that are dealing with injuries or are just inactive. So for the Avalanche, Andrew Cogliano, who I don't know his status, but he could potentially come back, but I'm not sure on that. He's going to be more of the physical forward for us. Ryan Murray, who's been out for a while just dealing with injuries. I feel bad for him, but most likely won't be back with the squad, as this was a one-year deal and he's been hurt for most of the deal. Then Alex Newhook, who was our other first-round pick with Bowen Byram back in 2019, 16th overall. I like what he can bring to the table, but he's just an inactive scratch. And same thing with Curtis McDermott, a big physical hockey player who can play on the back end on the defense, or he can play as a forward if you need him to. Then with the Blues, there are two major injuries, like I talked about, Torey Krug, who could help that defense out, and Marco Scandella. Both are day-to-day, I believe, last time I checked. Now, here is my projections. What do I think is going to happen in this series? We've expanded it from forwards, defense, goaltender, and then projection to forwards, offensive defensemen, defensive defensemen, the star power, the goaltenders, the depth, and then my projection for who's going to win and how many games. So for the forwards, I'm going to give that to the Avalanche. I do think we're a little deeper than the Blues. Don't get me wrong, the Blues are deep and they have a lot of forwards, but I do think that we have the better forwards. Offensive defensemen, I think this is a landslide. I think we crush them offensive, defensive-wise with obviously Cale Makar, Devon Toews, Bowen Byram, and then when Sam Girard is playing well, he is a solid offensive defenseman, but he has to be playing well. And I just like our offensive defensemen more than the Blues. And I feel like our defensemen contribute more in the attack and in the scoring than the Blues. And that's why I'm giving them the advantage on the defensive defensemen. Is their defensemen are more of the back checking. They're going to poke check. They're going to shut down. They're not going to let you get to the center. They're going to force you outside and take these sharp angle shots. So I'm going to give the Blues defensive defensemen the advantage there. Star power I will give to the Avalanche, as I wouldn't really say for the Blues Vladimir Tarasenko is a star anymore. He's he's a well-known player for them, but I wouldn't consider him in the star category. I would consider David Perron, Ryan O'Reilly. I would consider them their stars. And then for us, obviously you have Mikko Rantanen, you have Nathan MacKinnon, you have Makar, Gabe Landeskog, Kadri, who's having a career year. So Toews. So we'll have to see, but I do believe in our star power over the Blues. Goaltender, it's close, but I'm giving it to Kuemper, as the way he played in the second half of the season has been unreal. And I truly believe if he played that well the whole season, he would be in the nomination for the Vezina. Binnington has been good, but you saw he only played 3 of their 6 games, so Ville Husso started. And I don't really know if that is due to injury-wise, so I didn't really check up on that. But I do know he only played half of the games, and he's solid, but I would take Darcy Kuemper over Jordan Binnington. Now, maybe that's just me being, maybe that is just me being biased, and since I've been a fan of Kuemper since he was with the Coyotes, all those, well, I guess not all those years ago, but last year, and the whole time he was there, it's talking, and me not really liking Binnington and the Blues, but I'm going to give it the goaltender to us. And then I'm going to give it the depth to us as well. Like I said, I love our depth. I think we got everything we need. The goal scoring, the physicality, the size. I do think we have the depth advantage. But what is my projection? Avalanche win in 6 games. I don't think this series is going to be as close as last year, obviously, or as dominant as last year, as we swept them in the first round last year. I do think the Blues are going to make it competitive, but in the end, I do believe we're going to advance to the Western Conference Finals to face, well, I don't think we really know who's in that other matchup, do we? Yeah, I don't think we do. Well, actually, the Edmonton Kings game should just be wrapping up. So it'll be the winner of that versus the winner of Dallas-Calgary. So let me check real quick, because that game should be wrapping up. So it will be the Oilers. So if we win, we'll face the winners of the Oilers, and then whoever wins between the Flames and the Stars. But can't get ahead of ourselves right now. We got to take this one series at a time. Lock into this series. Lock into a game. One series, one game, one period at a time. That's what we got to focus on. We got to get past the second round, man. I feel this has to be the year. This has to be the year, man. I mean, I hope so, man. I hope we get to the Western Conference Finals. I've been an Avs fan for so long. I was born the year that we won our second Stanley Cup in 2001. And then I've watched heartbreaking seasons. 2017, when we had the worst record in the league. Lost the draft lottery. We got Makar, though, so that's all good. And then, obviously Matt Duchene forced his way out. That caused the big trade, and that's how we got to where we are today. So I've been here in the lowest valleys in 2017 during that miserable season, and now I'm riding the highs of being patient. So hopefully it works out. Thank you for watching. Leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.